So was that a new tablet at the beginning of the term, Supervisor Baker? Oh, all right. A lot of notes. We should have them preserved for posterity, huh? Where's that? All right. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, we come together as a board and current members for the last time in the 2022 supervisory session. Let us remember the good that has come out of our discussions. And when our new board convenes in April, let us, as older board members, work with our new supervisors to acclimate them to the workings of the board and to show patience and resolve to work together for the common good of the county. In your name, we ask this, O Lord. Amen.
All right, roll call. Supervisor Peisler is in Florida, of all places. I see that we have.
Let's go to Florida and have a meeting there.
Florida. Well, I don't know. I don't know, Supervisor Mastelier, if the per diems could get approved or not.
We'll take it
So-
out of your pay.
And I see, yes, take them out of my pay. That'd be a couple more terms. So other than that, we have everybody here. I see that we have Mr. Meyer here tonight too, another department head. So that's good. Last month, Mr. Every was complaining that he felt like he was the only fire hydrant at a dog show. So it's good to see you joining us for parts. Oh, Supervisor Wilkos, forgot him as well. The agenda would look for a motion to approve the agenda. Supervisor Swaggle, second by Romden. Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Would look for a motion to approve the minutes from the previous county board. Supervisor Haskey, second by Supervisor Gillett. Are there any corrections to the minutes from the previous? Supervisor Lazansky?
I had a one minor thing where there's the who approved the minutes last time. It's supposed to say Schwagel moved and it just says Schwagel. That's on the agenda.
Okay.
It says Schwagel and it doesn't have moved after it.
All right. Anything else on the minutes, on the previous minutes? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Citizens input, has anyone signed up to speak? No, no one has signed up to speak. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the board? Anyone who wishes to speak to the board? Does anyone wish to speak? Seeing none? All right, appointments. We have an appointment this month.
Veteran Service Commission, Robert Laurie.
Do I have a
Move to
motion?
approve.
Supervisor Romden, second by Supervisor Teske. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Annual reports and other reports as requested. Mr. Felt,
Nothing to report at this time, Mr. Chair.
no report. All right. Committee reports. You have the minutes from the various committees that you have reviewed. I will take them all together, or if there are any questions. Supervisor Mastelier.
Question for the sheriff regarding public safety.
Mr. Massey, you have no idea how much joy it brings to me that you have finally asked a question of all these months of committee reports. So thank you for this.
Well, I don't know if you're going to thank me. So at our last committee meeting, we discussed some of these things, but a question that I have for you regarding, and all of these are regarding the jail. If we have an unruly guest in our jail, can we ship those guests that are unruly to another facility to, if we don't have room to quarantine them?
If we could, we would. That is not our call. There is no jail that's going to take our unruly ones. Those are very problematic. Most of them dealing with mental health issues, violent mental health issues, schizophrenia and the like. So no, we are lucky that they take the ones that they filter, they vet, and we're able to get some out to these other facilities. But those that are causing issues, they will not.
Are we able to take the women that are, say, pregnant in our facility?
Negative. Again, could we? Yes. Do we want to? No. It'd be no different than if we had somebody that was going to be sentenced, arrested, or and we took somebody that was in the middle of a series of cancer treatments, right? We come up with options because, again, remember, statutorily, when we bring people into that facility, we take care of them. We then take on all those medical responsibilities. All right. So unless anybody here really wants to pay for the delivery cost of a child, we have to balance that, right? That's the work we do every day, balancing budget obligations to public safety. So unless they were a severe risk to our public and our public safety, we would have to come up with ways of doing this. But typically with the offenses we see in Kewaunee County, we're going to work out some options with the judge, with the DA. We're going to do some creative things to keep those people out of our facility. And that's whether it's our current facility or any future facility, because again, it's about inherent medical costs that we then take on. So I hope everybody here can appreciate that balance that we strike every day.
Okay. Another question, because I see that we had an inmate that likes to fight in the jail. When an inmate, are we set up to be able to handle an inmate that wants to fight, especially when he wants to fight with the jailer?
So we have, them wanting to fight with a jailer is not unusual. It comes with the territory, right? We accepted that risk when we took the job. The issue we have that you're speaking to is when they're violent against other inmates. Then we have to do, then classification kicks in. Then we have to figure out a way to separate. We cannot allow somebody who has shown violence against others to remain in cells with others. Again, we're then taking on that risk. So we have to mitigate that risk. How do we do it? We do it by separating them out. The issue at the current facility is we have very few levels of being able to separate out. We can't just put them in receiving indeterminately. That has specific requirements and restrictions against it. We put them in the very short term for discipline. So beyond that, so let's say, and we brought it up at the committee, right now we're hovering around 3 to 4 violent people that have to be separated from others. All right, so let's look at our facility. You've got J block, which is a 2-bed block, right? So we have to put one in there and nobody else. So now we've taken that one out of the mix. Our other cell, F block, is a 2-bed cell block. So we put the other unruly inmates in that one. That takes F block out of the picture. Now we have a third. The only place to go with third is main block. Main block's a 4-bed cell, but unfortunately he cannot be there with anybody else. So now you've taken the 4-bed cell and turned it into a 1-bed cell. You get one more unruly person, we end up having to stick him in Huber and vacating Huber. You've turned a facility that should house 22 when you bring it down to 4. So I hope everybody understands how that works with classification. That's been our struggle all these years, is we have very few levels of classification separation. So we're balancing that right now because we have 3 people that are extremely violent, not just annoying, not even just threatening to my staff, but they're being violent to each other. And so we have an obligation to do this classification and separation. So we're operating in a very interesting realm. And what's interesting to note is that the individuals that are coming through our system, our criminal justice system, they're not becoming less volatile and less violent. They're becoming more volatile and more violent. Okay. And this is going to continue. It's what we're seeing. So it just becomes another issue that we continue to work forward on this facility. because things are not getting any easier over at that little building on 620 Juno. And we're going to keep working on it and keep working with it, but it brings with it in a lot of risk, a lot of dancing around trying to make this thing work. But to your first question, we can't just farm these folks out to other communities. These are our community issues. These are our community inmates, and it's our obligation. So there's no easy solution to this.
I mean, basically, it sounds, what you're telling me is it sounds as if a new facility, we'd be able to handle these people more efficiently and more safely.
Absolutely. And that's been a lot of the work we've done over the last 7 years, is really looking at the layout of the facility and how, instead of, let's say, doing dorms, that's one of the reasons we went with a lot of cells versus dorms. There was that conversation early on. The problem with dorms is exactly what's happening. If you do a lot of dorms, it limits your ability for that classification, versus if you do more cells, you've got more variation for classification. So in the proposed facility, we've got a myriad of classification options, which is what we're gonna need. Especially, we're gonna be bringing back females, of course, but then to be able to classify all these folks between sentence, pre-sentence, probation holds, but then even going beyond that too, those individuals that are being violent, that have mental health issues, that we just have to keep segregated to try to keep the rest of the population at ease, if you want to say it that way. So that's the issue we're at. And that's why we put so much planning into the facility of the future, is it's all about classification.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you for the questions.
Thank you.
Any questions on any other minutes? Mr. Supervisor Lukes, please.
As long as we're on the jail, is there any other information that came out of the committee, how progress is going as far as referendum, or there's rumors out there about not needing to go to referendum because
The plan,
reducing staffing through the county?
the plan at this point, Supervisor Poppy can jump in if, or others on the committee can jump in if they wish. But at this point, we're looking at proceeding with referendum, because in order to be under the levy limits, that would be required in order to be able to staff it. It's not the building costs, but in order to staff it, we would have to get down to 4, 5 positions. And at this point, we're at 8. So we need 8 additional positions. So we would not be able to achieve that within the current levy limits. The only way to get around that is go to referendum.
So do you mind if I add to that, Supervisor Lukes? So we actually, as the chair had said, we were hovering around that 8. That has really been sort of our ground zero, was 8. But recently we did a tour of Iowa County, a very eye-opening tour, and not so much even the facility. When we started talking about operations, the staffing model that they used, we brought back with us, and Lieutenant Van Aram did a wonderful job of really trying to crunch the numbers and look at how we could incorporate that. So the conversation had been if we can get it down to 6, because we had been 8. We had been at a solid 8. But having done that, and we've been working with the finance director and the county administrator about making sure our numbers, made sense and this was tight, we are at this time able to bring this down to 6. So just putting that out for information, that the staff has done an amazing job of looking at this from outside the box, coming up with different solutions and different options. So again, we were predominantly at that 8, which, as was stated, kind of necessitated then the need for referendum. However, through the hard work of our staff, we have brought that number down to 6. So be as it may, and take that information for what you will, we are working to bring those costs down.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
And to follow up on that, just for me, I'm not a big fan of referenda. So if I can provide you an option that doesn't require us to go to a referendum, I will present that to the board and let the board make that decision.
Supervisor Lukes.
In what kind of time frame?
I hope to have, because if we're going to go to referendum, and our corp counsel can correct me if I'm wrong, we would have to have a question approved by no later than July, I believe.
70 days, 2 weeks. 70 or 90 days, probably.
I was going with the 90 just to be safe. So that makes, so I'll say July to be safe. So therefore, I would hope to have something to the board by no later than May.
Thank you.
So just to conclude, we do have the most recent versions of the floor plan as well as some external renditions. What I'll do is I'll stick around and I'll lay those out. And if anybody wants to look those over, asking questions, I really need you folks to get engaged. We really need to get on board with this and everybody really get to a level of comfort. And the only way we're going to do that is by visiting, by asking questions and having these conversations. So I please ask you, reach out. Right? I have this thing's on me 24/7. I get calls from all sorts of people all hours a day. I would welcome calls from you, each one of you. I would welcome that call. Please reach out. We can have that discussion. Thank you.
Any questions on any other committee reports, minutes that you have received? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. First reading of ordinance, we have none. Consideration of resolutions. You are prepared for the first?
Salary Schedule 1A. A resolution establishing total annual compensation for county elected officials. Fiscal impact statement. Clerk of Court total salary and related benefits increased by 14,768 over the 4 years. Sheriff total salary and related benefits increased by 21,141 over the 4 years. Coroners paid per event, impact is indeterminable.
Have a motion. Supervisor
I would
Romden,
move to approve the resolution.
second by Supervisor Mastelier. Discussion, questions? No questions? Then as soon as the clerk is ready, we are ready to register. You may register your vote. And make sure you confirm. Supervisor Yonke, there we go. Supervisor Lukes,
Not coming up here.
it's not on your phone. All right, so I have 17 yes and 1 no, correct? 2 abstention, 1 no. Motion carries. We'll move on. When you're prepared, we'll move on to the next resolution.
A resolution authorizing broadband expansion grant application partnership with Hilbert Communication LLC.
Okay, do I have a motion? Supervisor Vollenweider, Supervisor Augustine, second. Discussion, we have representative, yes, Supervisor Romden.
I'd like to offer an amendment to this resolution. My motion would be to, on the second page, lines 5 and 6, the be it further resolved, I would just like to see that sentence eliminated because it's cumbersome reading that in that by approving this resolution as presented,
Can
we are,
you tell me what line it is, please?
second page, lines 5 and 6, the
Thank you.
last be it resolved.
Yes, thank you. I see. it.
To me, it's kind of cumbersome reading that because it seems to me like if we approve the resolution as published, we're going to be approving things that transactions that we are unaware of.
Yeah, correct. I
So we
agree.
could end this resolution by, in line 3, right after of this resolution, put a period and then eliminate the rest of that sentence.
Yeah, Mr. Corp Counsel, is there, it looks to me like it would just make it a cleaner resolution and not change the substance if Mr. Supervisor Romden is correct, and I believe he is. He usually is. Oh, that's what you call multitasking.
Jeff, it just seems to me by reading that sentence that where it says the resolution is hereby approved, it sounds like we're contemplating approving something that we don't know anything about in the
Right,
future.
There's no problem eliminating those.
Okay,
Okay, is there
thank
a
you.
second to that amendment? Supervisor Vollenweider, is there discussion on just the amendment? Okay, so we'll have we'll just do show of hands on the amendment or voice vote. All in favor of Supervisor Romden's amendment signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed? The amendment carries. So Then we'll move back to the motion with the amendment. Is there discussion on that? We do have a representative here from Bug Tussle tonight, if there are any questions in general on Bug Tussle. Supervisor Swaggle.
Since the representative is here, we might as well listen to him, I would, for
I
my.
don't know if he's got prepared comments. Anything you'd like to speak to on this? If you would come to the microphone, please. I figure as long as you came all this distance and right there where you see the green light. And
No
you must
microphone.
speak to that because we're televised, sorry. The
Gotcha.
television audience wishes to hear you as well. And I
Well-
draw quite an audience, so
Yeah.
there are people watching.
That's
There's
good.
there's probably at least like 2 or 3.
2 or 3. That's pretty good. Those are good ratings. Well, good evening. My name's Mark Dodge. I'm here with Bug Tussle Wireless. Couple familiar.
It's on.
It's on.
Do I have to stand closer? Yeah. All right. Yeah, usually I talk loud enough. Everybody says, don't go by the microphone. So we're probably safe. Couple of good updates out of the original towers that we're in the process of putting up. The Norman site, the civil is being done this week. So lots of good things going on with getting the towers up and getting broadband into the areas that desperately needed it. So with the Bayview, the Bolt, the East Croc, the Gregorville, those sites are all on air. Norman, we're looking at sometime in the late April, May kind of a time frame, weather permitting. We have been fortunate that all the equipment that we've been ordering and the supplies and widgets and everything else have been kept available.